I stared at my phone like it had betrayed me. The group chat blinked back, a tiny notification mocking me. One person left the group. My sister. Of course, it had to be her. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat, my fingers trembling slightly over the screen. Doctor says surgery's tomorrow. Can someone be with me? I had typed it, every word heavy with the hope that someone, anyone, would show up. And then silence. The fluorescent light of the hospital corridor hummed above me. The sterile smell of antiseptic clung to my clothes, and my silk blouse felt suddenly constricting, a reminder of the life I tried to maintain outside my family's chaos. I watched my reflection in the tinted window, half expecting to see someone smaller, weaker, someone who would need someone else. But it was me. I was here. Alone. I exhaled slowly, tasting irony in the cool air. Of course, this wasn't new. Family had a way of showing up only when convenient, of leaving you to carry your pain quietly. And yet, something inside me shifted. This time, I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't plead for attention or care that wasn't freely offered. My heart ached, yes, but there was a quiet steel forming beneath it. I slid the phone into my bag, the screen still glowing with emptiness, and whispered to myself, not this time. I remember the night I finally packed my things, the first time I felt both terrified and alive. I was 23, standing in my childhood bedroom with the door cracked open, the glow of the streetlight falling across the faded floral wallpaper. My father's voice boomed from the living room, sharp and commanding, telling me I was being foolish, reckless, selfish. My mother said nothing, as usual, her eyes flicking away like mine didn't matter. And my sister, she just smirked, arms crossed, waiting for me to falter. I held the little leather-bound journal my grandmother had given me the summer before, the one with her handwriting scrawled across the first page. Ava, be your own home. Wherever you go, carry yourself like the world is yours. My hands shook as I gripped it, the pages worn and comforting under my fingers. Every word felt like a secret shield against the storm of my family's disapproval. I had chosen my path, a scholarship at a distant university, a career in medical research, a life they couldn't understand. I had told them the decision, expecting at least a flicker of support, but instead, I was met with ridicule and sharp words, accusations that I was abandoning them, that I was ungrateful. My chest tightened, a lump lodged in my throat, my eyes stinging as I imagined them never calling again, never caring if I succeeded or failed. That night, with a single suitcase and the journal pressed to my heart, I stepped out into the cool night air, leaving the house that had taught me both love and pain. I remember the crunch of gravel beneath my boots, the way the wind whipped around me, as if urging me forward. I felt small, yes, but resolute. I would not let their voices define me. For the first time, I believed that I could be enough, that I could be my own family, my own home. And somewhere deep inside, I made a silent promise. One day, they would see me, not the girl they dismissed, but the woman I was determined to become. I didn't know how to be on my own at first. My first apartment was a shoebox of peeling paint and creaking floorboards, the kind of place where the faucet dripped relentlessly and the heater clanked like a warning. I had a job at a small lab downtown, earning barely enough to pay rent, surviving on instant coffee and late-night diner sandwiches. I remember staring at the ceiling some nights, heart heavy with loneliness, and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake leaving my family behind. But then I would touch the worn leather journal tucked under my pillow, and the words my grandmother had written would steady me. Carry yourself like the world is yours. It wasn't glamorous. It was grinding, exhausting work. I spent hours studying, learning new techniques, pitching projects no one believed in. My mentor, Dr. Elise Harper, saw something in me that no one else did. A sharp mind, a restless curiosity, a refusal to settle for mediocrity. She taught me the rules of the field, pushed me to trust my instincts, and encouraged me to take the risks my family had always warned against. There were nights I cried over failed experiments, nights I questioned if I was cut out for this. But there were also triumphs. My first published paper, a grant I thought I would never receive, the quiet thrill of a patient thanking me for a procedure that worked. Slowly, I began to build something remarkable. Not just a career, but a life I could be proud of. I kept my success quiet. A few vague updates on social media, enough to avoid questions, never enough to boast. I didn't want pity. I didn't want jealousy. I just wanted space to grow, without the judgment I had carried for years. I watched from a distance as my sister posted about her latest trip or engagement party, and I smiled faintly, knowing I was building a world they could never predict. Months turned into years. I moved into a small office I owned outright, filled with medical journals, art prints I loved, and certificates of achievement I never showed my family. I hired a team of talented women and men who believed in the same mission I did: healing, innovating, creating opportunities where none existed before. And every morning, as sunlight spilled across my desk and a faint aroma of roasted coffee beans filled the air, I would touch the journal and whisper, "I'm ready." Not for their approval, not for their recognition, but for the moment I would stand and show them who I had become: strong, independent, unstoppable. The knock on my office door was tentative, almost hesitant. I had been expecting them, my family, the people who had left me to struggle when I needed them most, yet my heart still skipped at the sound. I straightened in my chair, the leather cool beneath my palms, and took a slow breath. My mother stepped in first, her eyes wide, betraying a mixture of worry and expectation. Behind her, my father's posture was rigid, the pride he always carried now tinged with uncertainty. And then, of course, my sister, standing slightly behind, trying to mask curiosity with a smirk that failed under the weight of the room. They had expected a small apartment, perhaps a borrowed hospital chair, a fragile version of me who would plead for help. What they found instead was this. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the sleek, modern office filled with polished oak shelves and vibrant art. My awards and certifications lined the walls, not in a display of vanity, but as silent proof of the battles I had fought and won. My team had left a bouquet of flowers on my desk from a grateful patient, a small touch of warmth in an otherwise professional environment. For a moment, they simply stood there, taking it all in. The realization crept slowly into their faces. This wasn't the struggling girl they had left behind years ago. This was a woman who had built something extraordinary with nothing but her own 2 hands. I leaned back in my chair, letting the quiet stretch before I spoke. My voice was calm, deliberate, carrying the weight of every sleepless night, every tear, every whispered promise to myself. I asked who could be with me tomorrow. I said softly, letting each word land. I wasn't expecting you. My father's jaw tightened, my mother's hand flew to her mouth, and my sister's smirk faltered into a flicker of shame. I gestured to the office around us. This is my life. I built it. Every step, every success, every single moment of independence mine. And yes, I can handle the surgery. I've handled worse than this alone for years. They were silent, their eyes drinking in the evidence of a woman they had underestimated. I could see the shock, the disbelief, and, for a fleeting second, regret. My sister's gaze met mine, and I saw something I had never seen before: vulnerability, a crack in the armor of her indifference. I let the silence linger, savoring it, before adding quietly, "It's funny. I asked who could be with me. Turns out I already was." The words hung in the air like a promise, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of control. Not just over my life, but over the narrative they had always tried to write for me. I wasn't fragile. I wasn't small. I was everything they had refused to see: strong, resilient, and utterly untouchable. I let them settle into the room, the hum of the air conditioner and the faint rustle of papers the only background to the tension thickening the air. This was my space now, my rules, and it was time they understood that the old dynamics no longer applied. I started with my mother, who avoided my gaze as if looking at me might shatter her fragile ego. "Mom," I said softly yet firmly, "if you want to be in my life, it can't be like before. No more silent judgment, no more passive-aggressive comments. You need to show up genuinely, not just when it's convenient." My father's lips pressed into a thin line. "And you?" he asked, suspicion clear in his tone. I met his eyes, without flinching. "Dad, if you want to maintain a relationship with me, pride can't be your compass anymore. Support me instead of trying to control me. Encourage, don't criticize. That's the only way forward." Finally, I turned to my sister, whose arms were crossed but shoulders slightly slumped. I could see the shame flickering in her eyes. "And you," I said, voice steady, "you need to stop competing, stop comparing, stop waiting for me to fail. I will always succeed on my own terms. You have a choice. Support me and start building your own life instead of undermining mine." There was a pause, and I let it linger. I wasn't seeking apologies, and I wasn't offering forgiveness blindly. I was setting conditions, clear, compassionate, but non-negotiable. I could feel the shift. Their posture softened, the tension easing as my words sank in. I wasn't punishing them. I was teaching them how to respect me, how to respect themselves. Each condition was a mirror. Act with honesty, take responsibility, grow into better versions of yourselves. That was the currency of my love now. I added one last point, almost gently, almost in passing. If any of you slip back into old patterns, I will protect my peace first. I won't allow past habits to dictate my present. I've been alone before, and I'll be alone again if I have to. I could see my mother's hand trembling, my father exhaling slowly, and my sister's eyes glistening. It was a start, a small opening where change could finally grow. Compassion mixed with firmness, I thought, is the balance I've been waiting for all my life. And in that quiet office, surrounded by the life I had built, I felt the power shift settle fully into place. I was no longer the girl who begged for attention or care. I was the woman who chose the terms, who decided the boundaries, who finally held the keys to the family she had once thought she'd lost. Weeks passed, and slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, I began to notice change. My mother sent a text in the morning. "Thinking of you. Hope today goes well." My father dropped by the office one afternoon, lingering long enough to offer genuine advice about a patient project. And my sister, she admitted to a mistake, her voice quiet but sincere. "I shouldn't have left the group chat. I was wrong. It wasn't perfection, and it wasn't instant. But it was enough. Enough to remind me that change was possible, that people could grow if they chose to." And as I watched these small but meaningful gestures, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't realized I'd been carrying for years. I touched the leather-bound journal my grandmother had given me so many years ago. The words seemed to shimmer now. "Be your own home." I had carried that advice through nights of uncertainty, through moments of heartbreak, through years of proving myself alone. And now, finally, it felt complete. I was my own home, strong and unwavering, and yet capable of allowing others in, only when they were ready to meet me where I stood. Sitting by the window that evening, the sun dipping below the skyline, I thought about all the pain that had shaped me, all the nights I had spent wondering if I was enough. I had discovered that being enough wasn't about approval, attention, or recognition. It was about believing in yourself when the world didn't, about carrying your own strength and offering it to those who truly deserved it. And as I looked out over the city, a calm clarity settled over me. I was whole. I was resilient. I was free. I whispered to myself, a small, fierce smile tugging at my lips. Sometimes, the silence that hurt you most is the silence that teaches you to listen to yourself. And with that, I finally let the past rest.